Hello everybody and welcome back to Let's Play ChäoS. For some reason I was about to say Baldur's Gate. This is a very different game. Either way, let me go and get my timer started. At the rooftop of an aged building in Shinsen, the container housing where Nishijo Takumi dwelt was now steeped in silence. It was the second time Aoi Senna had visited this place. The first time had been several days ago. After happening to come across Takumi with Kozue in the shopping district, she had covertly tailed him, and so she had pinpointed this location. She said coldly and perfunctorily, without turning around to look at the slump-shouldered and dismal-faced Kozue. Senna had come here with the intention of stealing into Takumi's room. Very weird way of phrasing things. Nishijo Takumi wasn't normal. Senna had reached that conclusion after speaking with him several times. There was a clear dividing line between him and ordinary gigalomaniacs like her and Kozue. He was either the possessor of terrifically unusual delusionary abilities, or else receiving some sort of artificial support. Either way, the ambiguity of the existence known as Takumi nagged at Senna incessantly. She was searching for a man called Hatano. It was possible that Nishijo Takumi was connected to him in some way. There was no positive proof, but if he were even a little suspicious, she would confirm the truth with her own eyes and crush away each possibility one by one. By doing so, Senna believed she would reach her target without fail. The door was padlocked. Senna let out a small snort and swung down her already real-booted D-sword. The padlock smashed to bits instantaneously. I'm half expecting us to not actually be gone. Senna had confirmed that Takumi had left school and headed toward the station with two friends. Oh. Okay, never mind then. Besides, she wouldn't care even if Takumi caught her. If that was what it took to achieve her aim, Senna thought nothing of being hated or having people report her to the police. Flinging the door open, they walked inside the room. Senna grimaced and groaned at the disastrous state of the room's interior, so much like a garbage heap. I would advise against it. Sighing, Senna continued into the room without removing hers. She thinks that's amazing. Okay. Leaving Kozue alone as she acted oddly admiring, Senna stood before the PC. She turned on the power without a moment's hesitation and ran her eyes across the items on top of the desk as she waited for it to start up. Furrowing her eyebrows, she picked up an essay he had left there. Interesting. We just decided to leave the essay there. Kozue, peeking at the essay from behind Senna, bounced in place in her overexcitement. In stark contrast to Kozue, Senna disinterestedly skimmed the essay and casually looked at the other side of the paper. A split second later, her eyes went wide with shock. That which was drawn there, it was. Those are supposed to be people. I never really made that out on the bottom.
あ
The sound of teeth grinding leaked from Senna's mouth. Her expression was harsher than usual, and the hand with which she held the essay was trembling minutely with rage.
そうか。西条が IR2 を生み出した張本人か。
Senna let out a low, suppressed voice as she crumpled the essay in her fist. Oh, we are still at the hospital. The inside of my head clouded with fog, interrupting my thoughts. I left the nurse's station and wandered the hospital interior. I attempted not to think about what I'd just seen. Before I knew it, I was on a staircase landing, and Masumi was standing in front of the window there, looking outside.
どうしたタク？汗びっしょりじゃねえか。顔色も悪いし。あ、顔色悪いのはいつもか。もしかして走って探してたのか？そりゃバテもするぜ。無茶するね、お前って。
Wiping my sweat with my hand, I made a frantic effort to appear calm.
リミと岸本、見つけたぜ。
Good for you. So he said, but I didn't see them anywhere around here. As I looked, he inexplicably pointed outside the window.
あそこだ。
Once I'd collected my breath, I walked up to the window. I could see the neighboring outpatient clinic from there. The outpatient clinic and the hospital staff were in different buildings. Although there appeared to be passageways connecting them, they'd been constructed to stand slightly apart from each other. The hospital wing had more floors, and from this stairway landing, we could just barely look down at the roof of the outpatient wing. It was arranged like a garden, with red flowers blooming in thick plantings, and must have been a restful place for patients. Rimi and a pajama-clad ISA stood facing each other in the very center of the garden. It seemed as if they were talking about something. The two of them weren't supposed to have been acquainted.
なんか妙にシリアスに見えねえか。
Well, I wouldn't know because I can't see them. Almost as if they were glaring at one another. Ayase took one step closer to Rimi and abruptly slapped her across the face. Even looking from here, we could pick up on the fact that it was a blow into which she'd put all her strength. Ayase was leaving Rimi, since she was walking toward the passageway between the buildings. Maybe she meant to go back to her hospital room.
今、ビンタしたよな。
I nodded jerkily. Rimi, left alone there, stood in place without moving.
あの二人ってトラブル抱えてんのか？
I hadn't heard about anything of the sort. I immediately concurred with Masumi's proposal that we pretend we hadn't seen anything. Deciding to leave Rimi be, we returned to Ayase's hospital room. The previous poorness of my physical condition had mostly improved. The presence of God's gaze, too, had vanished. That sickly feeling of mine began to seem like it hadn't been true. Masumi, walking ahead of me, let out a small sound. When I looked up in reaction to him, Ayase was in the middle of walking straight toward us. She'd hunched over a little, and her line of sight was lowered. Her footsteps were feeble, and her countenance looked pale, and yes, she wore a bleak expression. Ayase ended up bumping heads with us right in front of her room.
Yo, Shimoto-san.
Ayase lifted her face with a gasp at Masumi's greeting, with his breeziness turned on full blast. And then looked at me and smiled in a way that almost made it seem as if she were about to weep. Why was she smiling now? Because she'd heard about the disturbance at Oakfront and knew of how I'd shamed myself, or because she had simply taken a liking to me? The former would be devastatingly depressing.
俺たち君のお見舞いに来たんだよね。つうか岸本さん、パジャマ姿も可愛いじゃん。
He'd already activated his verbal playboy skills. What a fast reaction.
入って。
Ayase, on the other hand, didn't coldly blow him off the way she had before, but instead opened the door to her room and invited us in. She seemed no different after having slapped Rimi in the face on the roof. Was she doing a good job of hiding it, or was it purely that she'd dumped the dumped the thing with Rimi off her back in the short period between then and now? As usual, I couldn't read what she was thinking.
やっぱ見舞いに来たのは正解だったぜ。今日は好感触だ。
Masumi struck a small victory pose out of Ayase's sight, breathing violently through his nose. He charged into the hospital room. I reluctantly trailed after him. Truthfully, I wanted to hurry up and go home with Rimi, but then again, I wasn't brave enough to call out to Rimi now. I didn't know why it had happened, but she must be feeling down after having someone else strike out at her so hard, and I didn't have the words to encourage her. Ayase sat down on the bed. Masumi, more nonchalantly than ever, took a seat beside her. What audacious behavior! I unthinkingly reeled back at Masumi's aggressive posture. Ayase cast a glance at him, then fixed her line of sight on me. When she looked at me straight on, I became unsure of what kind of face to make in response. In the end, I hung my head.
怪我どう？もうだいぶ良くなってるみたいだけど。なんか必要なものあるなら遠慮なく言ってよ。俺がすぐ買ってきてやるぜ。
He focused intently on Ayase's hand. It seemed like he was scheming to hold her lithe and slender hand. Would it be okay for me to leave, I wonder?
小説とか読む？俺さ、グラジオールサーガってのが好きなんだけど。岸本さん知ってる？
匠。
Without answering Masumi's inquiry, Ayase called my name.
君はグラジオールの7騎士の一人よ。
は？え？
She'd gone occult on me all of a sudden. I guess even the ruckus over her failed suicide attempt wasn't enough to change her fundamental nature.
やっぱり導きだったんだわ。君と私が出会ったのは。
Right, of course. Quietly, simply, Ayase spoke. But a setting I could only think of as being some middle school student's rebellious fantasy.
君の邪神はとても強大。だからこそ言うことなしなのよ。黒騎士としての素質は。
What if I don't want to be the Black Knight?
君が今経験している苦しみは、すべて神罰。大いなる意志による試練なの。それを乗り越えたときに、理想度は召喚されるわ。君の手に、必ず。そして、現れるのよ。邪神の黒き大蛇。あらゆる崩壊を飲み込み、邪神王の身を砕くことのできる。同質にして、異質なるものが。現実なの。グラジオールも、理想度も。
Well, I mean, we know the D-swords are real. We literally see yours in the background right now, for one thing.
かまいたちが、その証よ。実在しない現象は、後世に言葉として残ることはないわ。知っている？語源を。
Not at all.
かまえたち。
Okay.
それは、理想度を意味しているの。
I feel like that was way too short of a line.
信じて、匠。グラジオールを倒すのよ。一緒に。
Gladiol. I remember now. I believe the last time, and maybe even the time before that, again, I don't really recall. I record these a couple weeks apart. But last time I'm pretty sure we did green, so we're going to do a red this time. I'd seen it when I first looked up D-swords. It had said the D-sword was a sword that originally appeared in pseudepigrapha probably mispronounced that, and other forms of literature discussing the legend of Gladiol. Masumi quietly stood up and walked over in my direction. As he brushed by me, he put a hand on my shoulder and...
俺もうついていけねえや。あとは任せた。
So he's decided that ISA is too crazy even for him to hook up with as a one-night stand, potentially. He sighed, sounding like he was through with it all, and he made as if to leave the hospital room.
待って。
Which is when ISA addressed him at last, but for some reason she had a severe expression.
逃がさないわよ。
あ？何何？俺の相手してくれんの？
ええ、そうね。あなたが邪神王の使いだということは分かっている。
Oh, she's gonna cut him. What's with that? A new aspect of the same setting? Masumi seemed immensely bothered by having her unilaterally append that kind of description to him. His was the common sense reaction. It wouldn't have been entertaining even as a joke. Yet Ayase was serious.
Takumi.
As she called my name, Ayase tossed over a fruit knife that must have been concealed under her sheets. Startled and panicked, I caught it. Thank goodness the blade had a cover on it, or otherwise I'd have been in danger of getting my hand cut.
そいつを殺すのよ。
Okay. Him. Ayase had been looking at Masumi when she said it. What was going on with this crazy development? Discombobulated, knife in hand, I went into a dither.
おいおい、殺せときたか。いくらなんでも、それはひどくね？まあ、岸本に嫌われてんのは分かってたけどよ。まさか面と向かってそんなこと言われるとは思わなかったぜ。それで、なんだっけ？グラビトーン？邪神？何のことだか、俺にはさっぱりわかんねえんだけどな。たく、とりあえずナイフを置けよ。岸本の妄想に付き合うな。
妄想じゃないわ。
I'm pretty sure it is.
匠、そいつの言葉を信じないで。
And I'm supposed to believe anything you say. Expression strained, Misumi took a step back from Ayase.
お前、異常だぜ。
She is.
匠、早く殺すのよ。でないとグラジオールに君の存在が筒抜けになってしまうわ。
I took the knife in my hand and quietly set it back down atop Ayase's knees.
匠。
君の言ってることはめちゃくちゃだよ。
She looked up at me with sorrowful eyes. I couldn't kill Masumi just because you're looking at me like that, you know? It had nothing to do with Gladiol or whatever. If I murdered someone, I'd be a criminal. No thanks. That was all it boiled down to.
さすが親友。お前なら俺を選ぶって信じてたぜ。たく。
Is she gonna kill him now? Misumi patted me on the shoulder, and he casually, ever so casually, grabbed the knife resting in Ayase's lap.
じゃあな。電波女。
Okay. With flowing movements, he took the cover off the blade and made it flash. Blood spurted furiously from Ayase's neck. It was terribly hot as it sprayed my face. Ayase's eyes, wide with shock, were watching me. Her body slowly fell back upon the bed. The sheets, once pure white, began to soak themselves scarlet.
やっちまったな、タク。今のが最後のチャンスだったんだぜ。グラジオール復活を阻止するための。
God, these delusions. I couldn't even raise a scream.
正しかったのは岸本の方だったってわけだ。
As he spoke, he straddled Ayase where she lay, and he dug her eyeballs out without the slightest appearance of hesitation. Even then, her body didn't so much as twitch. Misumi, turning back to look at him, smiled viciously and murmured. Or, turning back to look at me. I think I said look at her.
その目誰の目?
When I came back to myself, Ayase, who should have been drenched in blood, was sitting uninjured on the bed. Misumi was nowhere to be found. A delusion? I let out a deep, deep breath. I'd had a pretty awful vision. Experiencing some guilt over it, I internally apologized to Ayase. As always, she went on talking about her crazy fantasies without noticing how I felt.
すべてはお告げよ。すでに渋谷に集っているはずなの。7人の黒騎士は。あとは全員が覚醒するだけ。急がないと世界は滅びるわ。グラジオールの手によって。
Her shoulders slumped in disappointment. Misumi and I descended to the first floor of the hospital wing.
俺、もう岸本のことはどうでもよくなった。これまでの俺のポリシーはな、タク。可愛ければ何でも許してやるだった。
That's a terrible policy.
けどそりゃ間違ってたよ。あんな強烈な電波、俺には受け止めらんねえよ。
You know, a policy like that is how you end up getting stabbed and getting a nice boat ending for those of you that get the reference.
素直に梢ちゃんだけ狙うことにするぜ。
Yeah, sorry, dude. Kozue, I don't think is interested in being in a relationship with you. I thought that in itself was kind of questionable since Misumi did have a proper girlfriend and all.
お前、マジですごいな。岸本のあの脳みそお花畑の話、よく30分近くも聞いてられるよ。俺尊敬したぜ。
Damn, all that happened in the span of half an hour? Jesus.
俺は3分も持たなかった。この俺がだぞ。
That you're a normal person? No, I don't. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure most normal people would have probably just walked out of the room. Basically the same as Misumi did. Half-heartedly letting his words flow by, I walked along, wary of our surroundings. Then I caught sight of Rimi standing dazedly in front of the outpatient lobby. A cool wind made her hair stir against the side of her face, which lacked its usual good cheer. She seemed to be brooding, somehow, as she gazed up at the dusky sky.
Oi! Rimi!
When Misumi called to her, Rimi looked our way, and all at once her face started shining, and she gave us a big wave. And she's gonna act like nothing happened, we're gonna act like nothing happened. I was relieved when I saw her smile. I impulsively ran up to her. Well, I couldn't very well hold her close or anything next, so all I really did was run to her. And we're acting like we haven't seen each other in weeks, or months, or, you know, just some extended period of time.
どこほっつき歩いてたんだ？
病室、どこかわからなくて、あちこちさまよっちゃった。
Could have asked a nurse.
ひどいよ。置いてくなんて。
Says the one who wanted to go to the bathroom or whatever and basically told us, go ahead first, I'll catch up later. Rumi made a show of pretending to cry.
お前が先に行けって言ったんだろ。
Okay, yeah, I thought so. I could have sworn there was something to that effect. I just wasn't 100% certain.
そうだったね。で、岸本さんには会えた？
Yes, and she is way too cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for Masumi here. As I nodded, I could tell Masumi wore a blatant smirk beside her,
お
or
前
beside me.
岸本にビンタされてただろ
I thought we agreed we were gonna act like nothing happened.
さて、何のことでしょう？
Apparently, Remy wanted to hide the fact that ISA had hit her. Even though I thought we were gonna avoid bringing it up, Masumi learned to read between the lines.
隠そうったって無駄だぜ。俺は一部始終を見てたんだ。某家政婦のようにな。
なんだ、バレてたのか。
Slightly uncomfortably, crestfallen, she looked tentatively up in my face from below.
もしかして、タクも見てたの？
I only caught a glimpse of it.
そうだ。俺とタクで決定的瞬間をバッチリ見てた。
Don't say it.
なんだ、それじゃあ必死にごまかそうとしてたのがバカみたいじゃない。屋上に行ったらちょうど岸本さんがいたから、つい気になってたことを質問しちゃったの。
Asked her something about delusions?
そしたら機嫌損ねたみたい。
I think for somebody to slap you, you generally have to do more than just ruffle their feathers. Something bothering her?
なんだよ。気になってたことって。
Way to steal our thunder.
ね。あなたはタクの何なのって。
Dun dun dun.
え、
What could that mean?
マジで宣戦布告ってやつか。
I mean, it's not necessarily a declaration of war. It is a, are you going to give me a CB so that I can declare war?
まあそんなとこかな。
Because technically, you were only asking the question of a, is there something going on between you two, yes or no? Not a, he's mine, I'm gonna take him type thing. Remy squirmed shyly. She took little glances in my direction.
タクは渡さないからって言っちゃったし。
Okay, now that's a little bit more of a declaration of war.
そしたら見事に叩かれたんだけどさ。
すげえ。女の戦いだな。
Not quite a cat fight. It was literally one slap, and it didn't go beyond that. Not exactly a cat fight. Misumi mussed with her hair, or no, mussed my hair, rather.
おいタク、どうすんだどうすんだよ。え
Well, do we go for the purple hair, probably supposed to be black, but you know, anime and whatnot, liking to use sort of purple as the representative for black hair because reasons. I assume just because it tends to look better on most backgrounds. Who is Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs crazy, even for you. Or the pink-haired, overly happy girl that realistically I think we'd have a hard time necessarily getting along with for any extended period of time. You know, it's kind of a hard choice. So, what was actually happening? I didn't really understand everything at the moment, or maybe it was only that my head had gone blank.
告られてんだぞお前。もう付き合っちまえよ。
Smiling, Misumi abruptly pushed me Yeah, pushed me in the back. Caught by surprise. Timer. Caught by surprise, I toppled. Ahead of me was Rimi. And we're gonna land face first into her breast. Right? That's how it normally goes. As a result, I ended up being much the same as if Rimi were embracing me.
ごめん。
Oh, okay. We didn't quite end up falling face first into her breast, apparently. My heart pounded hard. Rimi's body was ever so soft and warm.
タク、私、
This isn't the place for getting it on. Flustered, I tried to pull away, but Rimi's hands circled around my back. She cautiously pulled me close. Her action startled me, sending electricity shooting all through me. Rimi's affection for me was conveyed through our tight-pressed bodies. I wanted to accept it. I wanted to make Rimi mine alone. Controlled by those feelings, I was about to wrap my arms around her supple form in the same way as she had done for me. Right then, I caught sight of a human figure over her shoulder. It was Ayase, holding her D-sword. She wore an expression steeped in hatred when she looked at me. I couldn't pick up on it from over here, but she was muttering something under her breath. I went cold. What a setup for carnage. There would definitely be blood spilt here. The moment it occurred to me, I wanted to run away post-haste.
おいタク、何ぼーっとしてんだ。行くぞ。
Okay, so we're gonna end this part here. Normally I would have gone to like a better stopping off point, but I don't think there's really is gonna be a better one right this second. And the timer went off during that delusion, and I don't want this to be a super long part. So, like I said, we're gonna go in and cut this off here. I will see you all next time. Quick reminder, I do have a Discord if you want to stay up to date with the channel. That is my go-to place for that type of stuff. Generally, I don't remember to post elsewhere, so when I say it's my go-to place, I mean it's basically the only place. Sometimes, if something's major enough, I'll try to remember to post it, like in the YouTube community tab, but don't rely on that. I would highly recommend at least joining the Discord so you can stay up to date. You can interact there if you feel so inclined. It's entirely up to you. It's mostly quiet. It's largely there as another means of being able to notify people about video uploads, and then, like I said, any potential changes to my recording schedule or streaming schedule as well. But more so recording schedule tends to be this thing that's more likely to be affected. But yeah, so I will see you all next. Oh, well, actually, also down in the description, there is a link to a Patreon. That is a nice way to help support the channel if you feel so inclined. With it, you get some extra goodies, such as early access to videos. There's also an option to support the channel via Streamlabs. You don't get any goodies there necessarily. You just sort of get the good feeling that more of what you give, in this case, I'm pretty sure it's everything you give, goes to the channel. As opposed to Patreon, which takes I believe it's a 5% cut. Streamlabs also works well if you just want to do a one-time sort of donation. But it does have the option for a number of months now to be able to do monthly if you feel so inclined. It's entirely up to you how you want to support the channel if you want to go ahead and do so. But yeah, so I'll see you all next time. Until then, goodbye and farewell.